Hello, YouTube. This is from the annals of the history of crime in the Soviet Union. And it's a very interesting story. The gang of the Tolstopyatov brothers became famous not only for their daring robberies. They created their own weapons to carry out their criminal plans. One of the most unique inventions was a powerful folding machine gun. The creator of this know-how even offered the use of his development for the benefit of the motherland. But the invention turned out to be so ingenious that the motherland did not believe in its existence. I refer to the so-called servants of the people, the Communist Party of the USSR, who turned the country into the dreary socialist utopia with their idiotic collectivist policies, constant shortages, and wars. Of course, they referred by the term of the motherland to their rule. Anyway, in the autumn of 1968, the city of Rostov-on-Don, Rostov-na-Donu, was stirred up by a gang of fantomas attacking cashiers of state institutions and enterprises, cash collectors, and various shops. For those who do not know, and they do not in the United States, Fantomas is a fictional character created by French writers. The character was also the basis of various film, television, and comic book adaptations. In the history of crime fiction, Fantomas represents a transition from Gothic novel villains of the 19th century to modern-day serial killers and supervillains. Soviet leaders allowed those movies about Fantomas to be shown in the cinemas, and I cannot describe you the impact it had on us, Soviet people, who were limited, for the most part, to the production of Soviet realism in art, basically propaganda. Fantomas created quite a stir. We spent days in movie theaters watching it. The gang got this name due to the fact that when committing robberies, they masked their faces with women's stockings. The group consisted of brothers Vladimir and Vyacheslav Tolstopyatov, Vladimir Gorshkov, and Sergei Samasyuk. The founder of the gang is considered to be the youngest of the brothers, Vyacheslav. At the age of 20, he was serving a sentence in a penal colony for making counterfeit money. While serving his sentence, that's where he met Sergei Samasyuk and developed a plan for the gang. Vladimir Tolstopyatov supported the idea of his younger brother, and their old friend Vladimir Gorshkov, without hesitation, joined the cause. The gangsters or bandits decided to use weapons exclusively of their own production in their criminal activities, since in those years it was very problematic to get ready-made weapons. I vouch for that, because I lived in the USSR in those days. I was a street-smart boy in Kiev, and I knew, for example, the father of my classmate and his colleagues were producing handguns, secretly, of course. They worked in the shipbuilding industry in a special works or plant, and secretly, of course, they had a side business. We had a lot of criminals in Kiev, and I lived in a tough neighborhood. Before going into business, the Tolstopyatov brothers took almost 4 years to manufacture weapons. They did everything themselves, from drawings to assembly. They made the blanks in underground workshops, and especially complex parts were ordered, without revealing their true purpose, from their acquaintances, milling machine operators. By the time of the first crime, 4 revolvers, 2 pistols of a unique design, 11 grenades, and even bulletproof vests were made. Their 1972 development, the ballpoint machine gun, deserve special attention. Later, in the time, years later, months later, experts from the Institute of Forensic Examinations stated that none of the known samples of handguns is the model according to which these weapons were manufactured. Its uniqueness lay in the fact that it had an amazing punching ability, that special ballpoint machine gun. The kinetic energy of this machine gun exceeded the kinetic energy of a bullet of a conventional weapon by 4.5 times. The length of the machine gun was 655 millimeters, but the barrel was made a break-back roll, and if necessary, it could be made twice as short. Such compactness made it easy to hide weapons under clothes. The machine gun fired bullets specially created for it, 8mm steel balls. In total, 5 such machine guns were created. The uniqueness of the Толстопятов's weapons lay in their system of break-back roll, folding, and compactness of weapons. After studying their inventions, I've heard this claim, folding weapons began to appear all over the world. Pistols in the form of cigarette packs, automatic machine guns, and simple boxes. Well, I had to tell you that. I don't really believe it, but that's what it is. In the winter of 1972, the Komsomolets newspaper received a letter, the author of which introduced himself as the organizer of a well-known gang. In the letter, he described his invention and promised to give the motherland a combat machine gun. To do this, he asked for a place for a design bureau, and in return, he promised to declassify his accomplices. The newspaper's editorial office ignored the letter, considering that it was written by the ravings of a madman. At least this is what we know in the open sources. In the summer of 1973, the bandits were detained during an attempt they had to rob the Yuzhgi-Provodkhoz Research Institute. The gang was captured by the operational headquarters policemen, and on June 7, 1973, the days of the criminals were numbered. Their car collided with a train. A shootout ensued. Samasuk died the way he wanted, on a pile of money. Over the years of their criminal activity, the gang committed 14 armed attacks, stole 150,000 Soviet rubles, and killed 2 people, one of whom was a veteran of the Great Patriotic War, or World War II, as it's known in the Soviet Union. Sergei Samasuk was killed during the operation to detain the gang, and the Толстопятов brothers and Vladimir Gorshkov were sentenced to capital punishment, which was carried out in March of 1975. They were shot to death. I have 2 comments from people who lived in the glorious city of Rostov. One of them mentioned that since childhood, he has heard stories about the Fantomas gang, one more beautiful than the other, and in particular, that they were not shot to death, but were hidden in a top-secret, classified, no-access research institute, where they were developing a miracle weapon. And he added, in general, a certain cult of this Fantomas has developed in the city. Well, our Rostov ones have thundered throughout the country, albeit negatively, our petty provincial vanity. And in fact, ordinary bandits who made their disposable crafts only because it was extremely difficult to get real barrels, not like now. And by the way, their creations ruined them because, again, according to the stories of the cops who detained them, at the most critical moment of their arrest, their machine guns began to jam, unlike the Kalashnikovs of the police officers. But the other commentator had this to say, and this is very interesting. And let me get to it as soon as I can, because something jammed here, but not a machine gun. So give me one more second, and here's what he said. His late uncle served in Rostov at that time and told him about this gang. They were shown their submachine guns to the military. The uncle said they were very good ones. If those gangsters had been left to live and allowed to work with the designers, weapon designers, maybe they would have achieved better. They had a shooting range in a private house in a concrete basement. And they worked in a helicopter factory, it seems. But later, in later years, there were specialists in Kharkov, already independent Ukraine, under Kuchma, who was the president at the time. They also showed a specialist who made a machine gun that fired without recoil, pierced armor, the bullet went into the armor, and any armor could not withstand that bullet. The machine gun itself was quite small, but the design was not placed into mass production, and Kuchma did not keep his word. This is what I wanted to let you know, and from time to time I'll bring you stories about crime in the old Soviet Union and modern post-Soviet countries. And if you like my research, please support it through the links you'll find in the description to this channel. I appreciate your attention to my work. Please like my videos and stay tuned for more. Thank you.